Hi, and welcome to Prepping Essentials. Meat and fish form a staple part of most people's diet, and if you're a regular viewer to my channel, you'll know that I keep a range of canned meat and fish in my long-term food stores. However, when something hits the fan and the supermarket shelves run dry, the clock will start ticking on your long-term food stores, and you'll need to have an alternative way of sourcing new supplies. So what are you going to do? Well, let's find out. Well, it's the weekend and I'm taking advantage of the good weather by going down to the shooting range today. And that got me thinking about why I keep and train with weapons. Yes, I enjoy target shooting and being outdoors, but when something hits the fan, you will definitely need some form of weapon included in your preps. There are two main reasons for this. One reason is self-defense, as when something hits the fan, one thing you can be sure of is that people who have not prepared will begin scavenging and looting for supplies. However, another reason is that hunting will provide an alternative source of meat or fish, and it's that aspect that I focus on in this video. There are two main options for sourcing fresh meat or fish during something hit the fan, and as a means of extending your stores of food and then to replace them if they run out, both of these can be difficult and both require access to land, skills, experience and equipment, so I would encourage you to explore both. The first option is to rear your own livestock. This might sound simple, but in reality it's not so straightforward. Livestock come in all shapes and sizes, but whatever your preference, you are going to need somewhere to keep them. Clearly, the bigger the animal, the greater amount of land you're going to need, and also the more complicated, time-consuming and resource-intensive the process becomes. For example, if you love beef and pork, you might consider raising cows or pigs. However, these require large areas of land for them to graze, and they also take a long time to reproduce, so you'll need large numbers to provide a constant stream of animals available for slaughter. Also, consider how much food these animals require in order to survive. While cows can happily eat grass during the summer, they will need supplies of silage, hay or grains during the winter, during which time they'll also need shelter. While smaller and therefore potentially more manageable, pigs too require large amounts of food, as they cannot really survive by simply foraging, and they require sizable shelter during bad weather and the winter months. Both of these animals also have significant welfare requirements, including medicines and physical intervention during pregnancy and birthing. The question therefore is, would you have the resources to maintain these types of animals in sufficient numbers for a lengthy period of time? The simpler solution is to look at the smaller, more manageable and less resource-intensive options, such as poultry and small game animals, such as chickens and rabbits, or perhaps, if you have the space, goats. All of these will provide meat, but chickens are perhaps the most obvious and also versatile choice. They're small in size, so therefore very manageable and easy to house. Most back gardens will be able to accommodate sufficient numbers to provide a sustainable flock. Chickens pretty much take care of themselves, and they're content foraging in the area around the chicken coop, and they'll eat a range of kitchen food waste. Just take care to stop them also eating your vegetable patch. In addition to their meat, chickens will also provide a steady supply of eggs, so you get two sources of food from a single animal. Like chickens, rabbits too are small in size, so they're also very manageable and easy to house. Most back gardens again will be able to accommodate sufficient numbers to provide a sustainable colony. Rabbits do need a reliable source of vegetation, but they'll happily graze grass lawns or fields, and they'll eat the vegetation left over from crop harvesting. They provide a good source of meat, and as you probably know already, they do breed easily and in large numbers, so you should be able to maintain large numbers quite easily. Being slightly larger, goats do require more significant resources and management in order to maintain sufficient numbers to provide a reliable source of meat. Clearly, breeding times are longer than those of chickens or rabbits, and you'll require more space. Having said that, goats will provide both meat and milk, and they will eat pretty much anything, so they're clearly worth considering. All of these animals will pretty much take care of themselves, so long as they have access to food and water, and in terms of shelter, their size means you'll not need access to huge tracts of land in order to effectively keep them sheltered and secure. Rearing your own fish is slightly more complicated and resource intensive. If you're fortunate enough to have access to a pond or lake, then you're in business. If not, then you could consider rearing fish in plastic tanks. However, you will need to identify fish which are edible and which are small enough to manage. Perch would be a suitable fish, as being small, they don't need huge amounts of water. They're content to live in most ponds and lakes, and they're also very tasty. They will, however, need more close supervision than other animals to prevent predators taking them and to ensure that the water habitat is kept clean and aerated. They might also require medical intervention to control pests and diseases. To be honest, they're probably the last on my list of the livestock that you should consider rearing. Clearly, not everyone will have access to the resources needed to rear their own livestock, and even if they do, then a regular supply of food will take time to achieve. So the next option to be considering is that of hunting. I should point out right at the start that in the event of a major something hits the fan situation, this is something that everyone will eventually turn to in order to obtain a supply of meat or fish. This means that it's inevitable that at some point the natural stocks of wildlife will become hunted out. Far better then that you take this into account right at the start when considering whether or not to start rearing your own livestock. I should also emphasise the fact that all forms of hunting require significant amounts of skill and experience, along with some form of equipment. Animals survive in the wild by being difficult to capture, so don't expect them to simply present themselves to you for capturing. The size and type of animal that you're seeking to catch will dictate the level of skill, experience and equipment that you're going to need to succeed. If you have watched any survival programs on TV, you will probably be familiar with the concept of trapping animals using snares or some other form of trap such as a cage. In reality, capturing animals in this way requires extensive amounts of skill, experience and, more importantly, time. It's extremely labour intensive, as you will need to keep revisiting your traps to see if anything has been caught, and you'll also run the risk of someone or something taking any captured animal whilst you're away. So, speaking personally, I would much prefer to use a different option, but don't let me put you off from exploring this method in greater detail. There are lots of resources available on the internet so that you can learn how to do this. In terms of cost, knowledge and simplicity, the first weapon I would look at to catch smaller animals is an air rifle. Air rifles fire a small lead pellet at the intended target, and they can be extremely effective over quite significant distances. If used with skill and precision, they can kill smaller birds and animals over distances of around 25 to 30 meters. As the name suggests, the power to fire the lead pellet is provided by air, and there are two main types of air rifle. The picture on the screen shows these two main types. The one on the left uses a manually compressed spring to operate a ram inside the rifle, which forces the air down through the barrel to fire the lead pellet. The one on the right has an inbuilt refillable air chamber within the rifle, which when released, and it can do this multiple times before refilling, it forces the air down the barrel to fire the lead pellet. While the air chamber type of rifle provides far more power than the spring type rifle, in a long-term something hit the fan scenario, the spring-powered type will probably be more reliable. This is because you're providing the air source yourself by manually charging the spring inside the rifle. Whereas with the air-chambered type rifle, you are going to have to find a way of filling air bottles which are used to refill the chamber within the rifle. Spring-powered rifles are also far cheaper, so they do provide an economical way of getting started if you don't already possess that kind of weapon. In terms of the lead pellets themselves, these are extremely cheap, and in the event of a something hit the fan scenario, you can actually make these yourself. You just go out and find some car wheel rims, and on these you'll find some lead weight counterbalancers. You can take these off, melt them down, and mould new pellets for yourself. Air rifles, then, do offer a relatively cheap and effective way of capturing small animals, and I have a spring-powered air rifle myself. Because they can be used at distance, this increases the chances of success, as you reduce the risk of your prey knowing that you're actually there. No matter where you happen to live, if you take the time to look around you, you'll find a remarkable number of birds and small animals which are both common and which can also provide a decent amount of meat. You might not have considered eating these before, but you should, as they are in fact very tasty. I'm thinking about such things as game birds like pheasants, partridges and pigeons, or smaller animals such as rabbits and squirrels. There are lots of channels on YouTube which feature small game hunting, and I'd like to take the chance to give a shout out to a friend of mine who does this on a regular basis and suggest that you check out his channel on YouTube. The channel name is Covid Hunter, and in his videos you can watch him using an air rifle to shoot his quarry, and he also demonstrates how to clean, butcher and cook what he catches. So please do check it out, as you can learn a great deal on this subject from his channel. For catching larger animals, you're going to need a more powerful weapon, something which is also useful in a something hit the fan scenario as a home defence weapon. I'm talking about crossbows. Like air rifles, crossbows come in two main but quite different forms. As you can see in the picture, they do look and are operated in a way which is very similar to a rifle. They're known as compound bows and recurve bows, and there are examples of both of these in this picture on the screen. The crossbow on the left is known as a recurve bow. The main body of the bow is formed very much like a rifle, and at the front it has a single cross limb with a string attached. The crossbow on the right is known as a compound bow. Similar to the recurve bow, the main body is formed very much like a rifle, but at the front it is quite different and uses a complex system of limbs, strings and pulleys. While these compound bows are more powerful than the recurve bow, their complexity and bulk is their downside in a something hit the fan situation, since they will require more maintenance and you'll need to keep a larger number of spare parts. Personally, I much prefer the recurve bow for both its simplicity and its far cheaper cost, and I have one of these myself. It's still powerful enough to take down smaller game at a distance of up to 30 metres, and at a closer distance it can take down far larger animals than you could with an air rifle. At this point it's worth highlighting the legal stuff surrounding weapons. Please do check to see what you are entitled to legally own and where you can legally use any weapon. This will differ from country to country, or indeed in some countries from state to state. Don't just assume you can legally own or use anything that I'm highlighting in my video. And similarly, don't just assume that because you can buy it, that you will then know how to use it. All weapons need to be kept and used with care, and you'll certainly need training to safely and competently use any of the weapons in this video. Remember, these things are designed to kill, and I don't want them killing you or anybody else that you care about. Moving on, this brings us to the subject of firearms, which come in a massive array of different types and capabilities. Far more than I can possibly mention in a simple video such as this. Firearms are clearly the most powerful and proficient weapons for hunting animals of all sizes, so you'll need to do a lot of research in order to establish what you will need to successfully hunt the animals that you're interested in. Firearms significantly increase the distance at which you can hunt, and in terms of the larger animals, they significantly increase the chances of a humane kill. I own and use a number of firearms, though these are purely used for target shooting rather than for hunting. Examples of two of my firearms are shown in this picture. The one on the left is a Smith & Wesson 1522 semi-automatic rifle, and the one on the right is a Bora BR99 semi-automatic shotgun. If necessary, and where permissible, both of these could be used for taking down a range of birds and animals at considerable distances. The Smith & Wesson semi-automatic rifle is a great target shooting rifle, and in terms of firearms in general, it's a cheap, reliable and very versatile weapon. It's extremely capable at shorter distances of up to 50 metres, but it is also quite capable of extending out to ranges of 100 metres plus. The Bora semi-automatic shotgun is both reliable and effective at closer ranges of say 25 metres, and being a shotgun, your chances of hitting the target are greatly improved, since rather than firing a single bullet, it fires copious amounts of steel or lead pellets across a far wider area. Finally, we couldn't talk about catching food without discussing fishing. This method is of course dependent upon you having access to open water such as rivers, lakes or the ocean. It also assumes of course that the body of water you're going to fish in actually does contain some fish. As with hunting in general, the subject of fishing is extremely diverse, whether your method is using a rod and line or using a net. There's a vast array of equipment which you can use according to where and for what you're fishing. As a prepper, I carry a simple hand line and some artificial bait as part of my emergency survival kit. But in terms of getting access to food in a something hit the fan situation, you shouldn't overlook fishing as a possible means of doing so. As with everything else in this video, my aim is to get you to do your own research and to find out what method would suit your personal circumstances and your surroundings, because these will be different for everyone. Well, that's it for this video. I do hope that you found something in there that was of use to you. If you did like the video, then please do click on the like button. Also, feel free to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. As always, I welcome any comments, questions or suggestions you might have. What are your thoughts on finding food after a something hit the fan scenario happens? Let me know in the comment section below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.